Hi, love.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm well, doll. How are you?
I'm great now. I feel like I've been waiting for this for a long time, even though we haven't even known each other for that long. So
It
I'm
feels like forever, though.
right. I'm so
Yeah.
happy to be here.
I'm so
Um,
happy to be here as well.
I just, before we get into it, I'll just share with everyone that Tiffany and I met in a master life coach program, and it was really bizarre because in these programs they tend to put you into little coaching cohorts where you do some peer coaching, and she and I just kept popping into the same breakout room completely just randomly. We just kept finding
Right.
each other, right?
Right.
And somehow we took that as a message that we are meant to be in one another's lives. And she had said to me on one of our last little sessions in the course that she was planning on writing a book. And I said, all right, I'm going to hold you to that. And the woman has written a book. And I'm so excited, Tiffany, for you to share your story, how you got to this point of writing the book. And before I get into your bio, just let's start off this incredible episode by you letting us know what is the title of your book.
First, let me thank you because you are definitely a catalyst that gathered across the finish line. So thank you for the accountability. You were truly inspiring, and you followed through, which was very helpful for me to continue on my path of getting the book done. So the book is titled "Love Foundations: The Art of Staying in a Loving Place."
I need you to say that again because it just sounds so good. Love
It is
Foundations.
Love Foundations: The Art of Staying in a Loving Place.
Amazing. Can I just take that and jump into reading your bio? Is that cool with you?
Yes,
All
yes.
right. Get ready, everyone. Tiffany J is a powerful speaker, author, certified relationship coach, and love strategist who brings lived experience, bold authenticity, and deep insight into every stage she steps on. Pregnant before even starting high school, she beat the odds to graduate on time, survived cervical cancer, and raised two children as a single mother while earning four academic degrees, including an MBA, graduating Summa Cum Laude. As a relationship coach, Tiffany helps individuals of all backgrounds navigate healing, communication, boundaries, and self worth. Whether recovering from toxic dynamics or building stronger connections, her no fluff, heart centered approach helps people rewrite their relational patterns and reconnect with themselves. Today, she uses her voice and her story to inspire others to heal, grow, and embrace life from a place of strength, self worth, and rooted in love.
Wow.
Whew. So, Tiffany, it's funny because I want to just say, okay, let's go, start from the beginning. I do, though, just want to mention something before we jump into your story,
Of course.
which is one of the things that I love about your bio is how you mention in so many words that you'll work with anyone from any background, any situation. And what I want to impress upon people who are listening, why that's so special, is because in today's world, we are so forced to choose your demographic, who's your client. Tell me, and Tiffany, I'm curious, what motivated you to make that decision for yourself in your business
Ooh.
as a relationship coach and as an author?
So that book was a labor of love. And so if anyone chose a demographic or a niche that I didn't fit into, that doesn't mean I still didn't need to hear it. I didn't need to receive the tools. As I walked this path and started to learn all the different dynamics of all the things it took for me to get to a healing place, I realized in all the classes I took and all the people I encountered that we are all going through the same journey. And so how you go, this person needs it, but that person doesn't. And that's not what God put on my heart. God said you're going to serve any and everyone that can hear the sound of your voice. And that's my charge for you. And so to stand against the world, telling me I have to do something, that kind of drives me to doing the thing they tell me I can't. And that's been since I was a kid, you know. So if somebody tells me that I have to do something, I seek God's approval of how I'm moving. And as long as I feel like I'm moving in alignment with Him, then I don't worry about any of the other things, because I think that anyone, no matter age, creed, breed, race, ethnicity, any of the things, does not need some type of help, support, love. So I love meeting people where they're at. So that's what God said I'm going to do, and that's what I'm doing.
So it's been since you were a little kid that you had this sort of this autonomy. You like,
Yeah.
if you want to do something, you're going to do it. And is that something that you've been aware of your whole journey, that you have that? Have you lost touch with that at certain points? Is that, how much of you is that a part
That's
of
a
you?
beautiful question. That is a beautiful question. Um, and I have to go to just, I wish I could take all the credit for it. But my great grandma Minnie Lee, born in 1903, this little bitty, I call myself unsized, but she was a ball of fire. She was probably like 4'8". And she just, when I found out I was pregnant, she was the main person that I called to talk to, because she was my sounding board. Even though I was so much younger than her, she just was that person that I leaned on. And so she told me, as long as you know who you are, no one can tell you who you are. And so I always kept that mantra all my life, is I was on a quest to make sure that I understood who I was, so I knew what I was standing for. I've always been in a position of servitude, so I always loving to see people smile and make people's day brighter. And so because that's who I was then, I always held on to being who I was and true to who I am. And I just, that little woman, just her voice just stayed there. The second part you asked me was, did I lose that at some point? Yes, I believe I did. I believe that I never stopped believing in who I was or realizing who I was, but I started to take some turns because of things and experiences that I was encountering. I started to lose sight a little bit of that. But it didn't take long for her she's still, man. She don't let me fall too far off that path. So she definitely got me back on track, and quickly. And so that's how I was able to navigate so many of the things that I encountered through life, is just leaning on her words and her wanting to make her proud of me and ensuring that I instilled that in my children. So
Wow, it's so interesting. There's to hear that. Thank you for sharing that, because she clearly had such a major impact on your
yeah.
life, and in seeing you for who you are
Yes.
and who you were as a child, and clearly just the fact that she could see you.
Yes.
Yeah, wow, that's very special. You were pregnant.
Yes.
You went to her with that. You said, how old were you?
I was 14 when I found out I was pregnant with my daughter. I was 5.5 months pregnant though. I was tiny too. I wasn't even a good 100 pounds. So it didn't take anything for it not to look like I was pregnant. So, but I feel like as soon as I found out, within 2 weeks, you could see her. She became very big and plump. But yeah, so it was that thing that it kind of took me by surprise. It took everybody by surprise, because I was pretty much a tomboy all of my life, and so dresses and skirts and all that wasn't my forte. So I tended to play with the boys more than anything, but I didn't have any interest in having a boyfriend, so they weren't ever really worried about me and boys.
Right.
And they had every right to be, because that wasn't my focus. I just had a little too much time on my hands, and I just chose to have my first time be that time. So yeah.
Yeah, and you were 14, and somehow, how did you made it through school?
Yeah.
And were you able to stay in school the whole time? And was your
Yes.
family helping you? And
Oh wow. Look, I wish I could say, like, God just knew. He knew who parents to had make mine. And me and my dad, we were the closest before I got pregnant. But I was a world class athlete, so I was this on track to be all things. I walked away from a 4-year scholarship because I didn't want to stay in the States. So my dad got shipped to Germany. And I was like, all right. They were like, you're going to stay in the States because I already had a full ride before I even started high school. And I was like, yeah, no, I don't know. My aunt, but she wasn't like, I didn't know her. I was like, I'm not staying with that lady, you know.
Right.
So I went with my family, and because we were moved overseas, I didn't get to start school right away. So that's hence the too much time on my hands.
Got it.
And
Got
so
it.
fast forward, my telling my mom, my dad went with me to the doctor. He was just like that. Like I was, like I said, I was close to him, but he was disappointed because he thought that I, had pretty much ruined my life. And my mother was just like, yeah, no, we got this. You got this. Whatever you decide, I got you. I'm support you. And so me and my mom became really, really close, behind my daughter. And so the support, but once my dad came around, and it took him some time, but I can understand that, you want well for your children. So I don't fault him for feeling the way he felt. And so my mom just was like, yeah, no, you're going to be fine. We're going to get through this. And so my parents made me promise them that I would keep my grades up. I would stay in school, and they would take care of the child care and, the diapers and all the things. So I didn't have to worry about it. And they even made me continue to play sports. They wanted me to make sure that I still had an experience, of being a child. They understood. And so I would love to be able to show people that your support system around you is so important to your survival, because if my mom and dad wouldn't have supported me the way they did, I know it would have been a lot harder than it was. Yes, it fell on me. I had to do certain things and be certain things. But the agreement that we cultivated, I wanted to keep my part. I was always a person about keeping my word. I was always a woman of my word, even as a child. So that agreement that I made with my parents just made me just dig my heels in.
Wow. I mean, that's what you just shared is like, that's enough. Okay, we're good. I mean, that's crazy. That's not a story you normally hear.
No.
That's a beautiful story and really inspiring. And you're right. People need to hear this. Not only the people who may not appreciate the support that they have, but also the people who have the ability to support, and they may not appreciate that they have the ability to do that, and how important that is, and what your family did for you, and that your mom, she led the way, your dad caught up, and you were able to still, not that you would have lived your life, but you were able to still experience teenager, goals, strive. I have to ask, because I didn't know this about you. What's your sport?
Oh, girl, I played everything under the sun. So
I don't know this.
Athlete, I was.
What?
Yeah, I was just a world class. Like, I think I played everything, and so I was a track star. That was what I was ranked in the world. They had me going to the Olympics at 16. I was running like sub 11s by the time I was 9. So in the 100, and I was barely like 31 seconds in a 200. It was world class time. And so, and then I played football because football is my favorite sport, like every sport, football. And then I played basketball, and that's what I ended up getting scholarships in, basketball and track. But I ended up leaning more towards basketball. I found it later, but I ended up being really good at it. And so newspaper clips, everything. So between the two sports, I was that. And then I started playing volleyball, ended up setting records for the school of spikes and blocks. And it was crazy because I'm still only 5'1". So I literally should tell people, I back then I had, crazy hops, if I could, brag a little bit. Fast forward, because I love football so much, I ended up playing in what is now the Women's Professional Football League. Yes, all pads, helmets, all that. I played in the inaugural few years. So I played the first 2 years in Norfolk, and then I went to Ohio and got picked up with at that time they were what we would consider the Super Bowl champs.
Yeah.
I played a season. I started the season, but I left Ohio really really quick. So I started the season with them, but didn't end it, and they ended up winning the championship again. But yeah,
Do you
yeah,
know the team, the Renegades?
yeah, I
Right? Is
do,
that the Boston? I
I
think they're
do.
Boston.
I
Yeah.
do. There's a lot of teams there now that they weren't there the first few years, but I'm so glad to see that the sport is actually taking. Because
It
people,
is.
when you tell people you play football, the first thing they go, "Oh, the lingerie league, that was not
Right.
real football." Even though, like, me and my teammates would always watch it, like, I'm not gonna, it still takes a lot to run out there in bathing suits and get hit full speed. That's still
Of
gonna hurt.
course.
So don't get it twisted. But it's different. It definitely was different because none of us, them girls wasn't weighing 115 pounds. Them girls was 200 plus pounds that were hitting on me. So
Yeah.
yeah, I love to give a hit. So yeah, it was a thing that I think started to get me back to to leveling out my emotions. I could take
Right.
out aggression in a way that was a little bit more appropriate and not
Yeah.
fun.
That's
So
one of your tools. It's one of
it
your
was.
tools.
I will tell
Put some
anyone.
pads on.
I will tell anyone. Yeah, I think that was when I started being a lot more calmer.
Yeah, I could
Oh yeah,
imagine that. So
yeah.
okay, so now you're so you finished high school.
Yes.
Where did you finish high school?
So my father at the time was overseas in Germany, so we were
Right.
stationed in Ramstein. But we lived on the Kaiserslautern side, which was amazing. I tended to feel a little bit more comfortable on that side with the Army kids versus the Air Force kids that I was supposed to be around because my dad was Air Force. He's retired Air Force. Thank any and every veteran for your service because the whole
Yeah.
family serves. So I
Yeah.
thank all of you. But yeah, so we were overseas when I graduated high school. Now, I do want to say that I had, some teachers that definitely supported me, my sister. Now, mind you, I don't want to shed any light on my parents. They definitely weren't like, we're going to watch your child all the time. So I still had a lot of responsibilities that I stepped up to. I will say that there were a couple other young ladies around me that they ended up putting out of school. But because I had a few teachers and a guidance counselor that was like, yeah, no, she's not going that route. Like she's not succumbing to the pressure. She's actually a good kid. I kept my nose clean. I was a really good kid. I was a science nerd, math nerd. So I was a good kid. Just made a, bad decision in the moment. Don't regret my daughter ever.
Of course not.
But they saw the potential in me, and so I always shun when people say don't fall for the potential. I was like, yeah, well, if people looked at me like that, I would have been thrown away a long time ago. I've been discarded. I'm not doing
Yeah.
that to people.
Yeah.
I don't like our world that we're living in of this cancel culture, and discarding people off of potential. But I'm gonna tell you, potential is a thing that allow people to see me and help me to reach my full potential, right? And so had they had not seen that in me, because I definitely wasn't displaying what I was capable of, just flickers of it, because here I am a teen mom. If they wouldn't have saw the potential in me, I would have never, gotten to my full potential.
Yeah, I also though can't help but, that just makes me think again about your great grandmother and how she saw the potential
Yep.
in you
Yep.
from such a young age, and you clearly always had that. And that's part of what people could probably see in you, right? I'm imagining is that self-confidence, even if you weren't always feeling it. I'm sure it was always at just sort of like at a simmer at times. But wow. So once you graduate, what happens next?
So another disappointing story from my father. I walked away from scholarships to run track and play basketball in North Carolina. He wasn't happy. Not too many
Why
people
and
did.
why? Why'd you do that?
I wanted to be a mom. I,
Oh,
I felt like I completed my contract with them, and I didn't want to leave my daughter. I did not want my daughter to be raised without me. I didn't. That was not an option for me. And so I went to school. I took classes at the University of Chicago because they had the remote at that time. Yes, I'm not that old, but they had the remote the remote campus, and so I took courses and things like that. But I wasn't leaving my daughter. It just wasn't gonna happen. And so yeah, and so I ended up getting married. I started dating. Um, because I was still a teen, but I didn't have anything in common with guys in high school. I started dating the military guys. I
Mm.
should say guys like plural because it was I dated my guy. I met him at 16. I dated him and ended up marrying him really, really young. And that was not the best thing to happen in my life, but it was a lesson learned.
Did your family, how were they with you getting married?
I think because my mom and dad got married really young, my dad was a big proponent of making sure that we had a future that did not look anything other than what he had envisioned for us, which was being able to be taken, not, I don't want to say taken care of, but not like by a person, but be okay, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
like, your life does not go down another path. Like, you're going to be productive in some form or fashion. And
Mm-hmm.
so there was no option of us not, being somewhat, responsible adults, and so because he was in the military as well, in the Air Force, it wasn't shunned upon. My mom, I think my mom knew because I didn't want to get married deep down because I felt like I was too young. But manipulation can be an ugly thing. And so he had me believing that I was used goods and no one would want me because I had a child. So it was and so I want to be very clear, to not minimize anyone's experience. When people say that you see the signs, I will tell you I didn't. He was a good dude. When we started dating, he loved me hard. He took care of my daughter. He took care of me. I mean, he was an awesome dude. But when we came back from our honeymoon, he became someone else. Um, and after everything was said and done, I only stayed in it for 2 months. Um, but because I was wanting to get a divorce, I wanted to get an annulment. He didn't want to. He said he wanted everyone to know that I was used good, so he refused to give me an annulment and made me get a divorce. And that was okay because I didn't care. I just wanted to get away. But we ended up having to go to marital counseling because he was in the military, and there were so many volatile incidences that were happening, and that they would put me on the, like, he was a military cop, so I would end up in the blotter like I did something wrong, but it
Right.
wasn't me. The only thing that saved me is I had met his captain prior to us getting married, and so his captain didn't think everything seemed quite right, and so his
Oh.
captain was like, "I want y'all to go to marriage counseling. I want to see what's going on." And during the counseling session, the therapist left out and left us alone, and he went into what he usually does, and she saw everything, and so she came in and she wrote it up, and they considered it military stress. And so later down, a couple years later, his parents were really sweet. They loved me. They then expressed that their family did have mental health issues in their family, so he literally was probably borderline. And I'm not gonna guess
Mm-hmm.
because in his write up, it was, they called it military stress. So they said he definitely was a different person.
Right.
We don't know where it came from. I don't know why it caused him to be so violent. But I don't care. At the end of the day, it was about life and death at some points, and so I'm glad that I was able to be aware enough that I had to protect my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And he never hurt her. He never hurt her, but it was because I wouldn't allow it.
Yeah.
It not in a way that he went to hurt her, but I knew I didn't wait around to see where this was going. When it got to a point where he showed up to mm, yeah. So I just, it wasn't a good. So I took her and myself back to the safest place I knew, and that was where my parents were. So.
And how thanks for sharing that. I know it's not easy. And I know that um, part of your writing the book has been sort of, this is part of the process, sharing your story. And it's, you know, going back and dipping your toes into these things in the past is not easy. And so I just want to take a moment and just acknowledge that.
Thank you.
And I'm curious, when you went to your parents, you and your daughter, what are you feeling in that moment? How are you feeling? And what are you thinking is going to happen next?
Well, I didn't tell him. I didn't tell him. I never told them to the extent of what happened. It just didn't sit right. I think a part of it was a shame. A part of I was embarrassed because I'm pretty, like I said, I'm a pretty strong individual, and to have gotten in that situation, I was totally blindsided, and I didn't know how to feel. All I knew was to protect, and so I went back after the last incident, and I swallowed my pride because it wasn't about who did what to whom, or receiving any pity. I don't know. I just felt like as long as he was away from us, I was good. That's all I wanted. I just wanted him away.
Right.
I don't feel the need to drag people through the mud. I don't feel the need to, God takes care of all of that. And so I just wanted us to be safe. And for that to happen, I needed to be where I knew he would not come in my parents' home and
Right. Right. Okay. Yeah.
yeah. And so
So you're safe there.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I had to curtail my movement. I had to play nice until the divorce was done, because I didn't want any more problems. Because I started putting people in intentionally putting other people in harm's way. Because he showed up to my job, and those people were in harm's way, and so I refused to have that happen to anyone else. So after that, his captain was made aware of what was happening, and so he ordered him to stay away, and they made him go and get counseling, and so he had to go through protocols, and the sergeant that was sweeping everything on the rug, he was sent back to the States. Yeah,
Wow.
and so it allowed me the time I needed to, I won't even say heal, but to suppress and move forward. Because again, my daughter was very much so looking at me. Had to explain the things to her that, he won't be around. But, she was back with her grandparents. And so, yeah, we didn't skip a beat.
Yeah. Wow. So remind us now, how old are you and how old is your daughter at this point?
At this point, I'm 19, so my daughter's a little over 4.
Cutie little button.
She was
Little
a
4-year-old.
she was definitely my little feisty little something.
Yeah. I mean, it's
I had her,
incredible.
but we swear she was my sister's daughter, because she acted a lot like my sister.
Isn't that funny? Does she look
It was
like
so
her?
funny. Yeah.
Oh my God.
She to this day, she'll tell you, like, we all thought, if you were to see all three of us together, you would think that my daughter was her daughter, not for looks, but just attitude. But yeah, the older she gets, the more she's like me. But then she was a firecracker, boy.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. What's
She
her
kept
name?
me on my toes. Oh my God, she was so much fun. She was
And
fun as a kid. I don't know
what's
too
your
many
daughter's
2-year-olds
name?
you can take to her name is LaQuisha. We call her Lala. But I don't know
Lala.
too many 2-year-olds you can take to a movie theater. And
No.
I'm about to date myself. So I don't know if you remember the movie theaters where they had like the smoking section and the kids section
Yeah.
behind the glass, right? Remember that? Like they
Yeah.
don't do that now. But yeah, that's how old I am. We had the movie theater with the glass, and you had to sit like, I didn't have to go behind the glass. She was quiet. Like you didn't. I would sit on the end, sit her in her stroller, and we'd sit and watch the movie, and she just eat her popcorn, and we
Oh.
would just be like watching them, like best. Oh, she was amazing. Yes.
Oh gosh, it's incredible to think about you at that age, and it's pretty impressive that you were able to protect yourself and your daughter. So wow, I mean, that's not. It's interesting to me. It sounds like it was almost just your instinct just to go.
Yeah, I think so. I think that a lot of us have a lot more fight in us than we believe.
Yeah.
We're stronger than we know. Um, so I think that, yeah, I think that I believe so much in taking care of others that I tend to, I'm one of those people that run, like if I see an accident or something, I run to the person to make sure
Yeah.
they're okay. Not always like looking left or right to make sure I'll, be safe, but I've just been that way since I was a kid. So I think that that's just an innate thing in me. So thank you for that, though. It's nice to hear sometimes that we tend to forget that that's not something that everybody does.
No, you don't when you see something going wrong, you don't take your phone out and just start filming it.
No, I rather have no footage of anything that I've ever done. Like,
It's like I just don't understand that when people
I will never understand.
saw this person
It's
being
not
attacked.
for-
I'm like,
Yeah, it's. I think because we've gotten so detached
yeah.
from humanity. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
But that's why we're here and doing this work, because
Right. Exactly.
you are certainly somebody who is in touch with humanity and helping drive the mission to bring us all
Yes.
together.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
okay, you are now living with your parents.
Right.
I'm imagining your dad has given up this. He's not upset with you at this point for not taking the scholarships.
No.
You guys are good. You're moving on. What is happening next on Tiffany's journey?
Oh wow. So it is time to leave overseas. My dad is retiring, and so I'm dating my son's father. Don't quite know what to do, but I said to myself, I was gonna have a boy. I don't ask me how I knew, but I prayed to God. I wanted a boy. And so this is gonna sound weird, but it's the truth. I said, I want to move to a place where football is prominent. I love football, and I knew I was going to have a son and he was going to be good at football.
Not weird. I get
That's how I picked the states that I was looking at to move to. I will not lie. It was Texas, Florida, Virginia, and Georgia. I had them 4 states. Out of them 4 states, I'm sorry. That's how much I love football.
All right, so you've decided. So yes, so therefore, how did you were choosing where to go, and it was all based on football states.
It really was. Yes, and so my son's father he was a football person. So I actually coached semi-pro football overseas, and so he played on the team, and so he was just as much a football person as I was. He played in high school in Virginia. And so I was like, all right, well, he knew people. He had, friends and pseudo family there because he grew up in Virginia. So I was like, okay, well, I guess that settles it. At least we'll know some people. And so Virginia was on the list. So it wasn't like it was a far cry from those things. So we moved to Virginia. Then I get pregnant with my son. Because I had cervical cancer, they didn't think I would be able to have children past the age of 25. I had a really good...
When did you have cervical cancer?
So at 17, after you have a child that young, you're still kind of like on their radar for anything. So I had pap smears every 6 months. And so, yes, gentlemen, we had pap smears back then. Yes, I'm not that old. So anyway, I had a pap smear every 6 months. And so I want to say not a couple years, I was 16, 17. 16, I had one come back up normal. And so they did a follow-up one. And at this time, about to date myself again, it's Desert Storm. And so because we were in Desert Storm, most of the normal staff was gone. Like they activated them to, take them out to the war front. Right. And so we had a lot of reservists. And if people know, reservists are mainly people that live everyday lives. And then they are activated, especially during times of war. And so this particular doctor was activated. And so she was really good at what she did. And because it had came back up normal, she immediately asked for a biopsy because it was the second one. So after the first time they did, it came back up normal. They did it again, and it came back up normal as again. but she didn't want to wait. She was like, we're not going to keep seeing what this is, or if
Right.
it comes back, I want to do a biopsy. So she did the biopsy. It came back malignant, but she still wanted me to have a hysterectomy. She said, because I had multiple cells, I didn't just have one, I had multiple cells. And so she was concerned that it would spread, it would come back, or I just wouldn't be okay. I would live probably, she said that, I'd probably have multiple miscarriages, and or I wouldn't be able to have kids. And she
That's
said
heavy to hear at that age.
at 17. And so I had to make another decision, because just to go back just a little bit. So this was the second major decision I had to make in my life, because in Germany back then, you could actually have aborted up until 6 months. It wasn't abnormal to do that. But for me personally, at 500 months, that was a whole being in my body. So there was no, even though on my 15th birthday is when I had to make the decision, even though in my heart of hearts, I knew what my decision was, I had to literally verbalize what my decision was on my 15th birthday.
Right.
Happy birthday to me. And so this was the second major decision I had to make about my anatomy. And I was like, all right, look, I'm going to put this in God's hands. And I remember my words. I'm going to put this in God's hands because I do want to get married and have a child. I want to be able to do that. And so she did, she gave me all the literature, all that. She was a very good doctor. And I appreciated her for doing her work, because she, at the point before they went in, she didn't know if they were going to be able to clean it all up. And so she basically told me prior to me going in and having it done that it may come back that they couldn't get it all. And so she said they did have to take quite a bit of chunks out. And so that's why she was recommending that I went ahead, because she didn't know the health of my cervix would be able to hold a child. And so because of that, I put it in God's hands. I was like, okay. And so when we move and my son's father and I, we get back to the States, we get very heavily involved in church. And they're like, y'all are living in sin. So we were like, we don't want to live in sin. So we got married. Because I was like, I can't live in sin. Oh no, I don't want to be that. So we get married, and we're married for a good year and a half. And then I had a miscarriage before that. And so I was like, oh, wow, maybe, I'm not going to be able to have kids. And so we started having a conversation about me possibly not being able to have children. And, would he be okay with that? And of course, we were already married at this time. And he was, like, I'm not going anywhere. I was like, okay, great. And then I got pregnant, and it was funny because I didn't know I was pregnant again. And I'm 3.5 months this time before I even knew I was pregnant. And so I bled. I had my menstrual all the way up until then. And same thing with my daughter. I had my menstrual every month until I found out. And then when I found out, they just automatically stopped coming. I was like, this is the weirdest thing. Anyway, so had menstrual, get pregnant. And so I am like, wow. So we're very cautious about anything that I'm doing or blah, 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 blah. That lasted for not too long. My son decided he wanted to come early. And so
How early?
I was due in end of October, and he wanted to come in July. And so,
oh my gosh,
I had the best doctors though. Dr. Peretz, Holly Peretz, that lady, man, whew, she was good. But they stopped my contractions. And so they kept me overnight, and I seemed to be healthy. He seemed to be doing well, but they put me on bed rest. So I was on bed rest from July until he was born. So during this time, I'm not quite sure, but Dad starts drinking a little bit more. And so now things are taking a turn for the worse. He's not the nicest person when he's drinking. So it got pretty bad pretty quick. I think the pressures of all of that, and I just think it was a lot on him responsibility wise, and he was just trying to find an escape. And so I became the target of his anger. So it was a stressful pregnancy, but my son is big and healthy, a beautiful boy. Um, Amazing guy now.
Yeah.
It-
Well,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, and you, the July that you were pregnant and told to take bed rest.
Yeah. Hmm.
How old was your daughter?
My daughter, they're 9.5 years apart, so she was 9 years old.
And your family's not around.
No, my mom and dad actually are living there. My mom and dad, so
Okay.
we left a couple
Okay. I
years
didn't
before
realize
my
that.
dad. Yeah, my mom and dad had literally just got there.
Okay.
Maybe right before I found out I was born, pregnant. Yeah,
Okay.
they came to live in Virginia. So
Like
yeah.
nearby or?
Oh no, they actually stayed with us. We ended up
Oh,
staying in the same house, and I'm kind of glad because God has a
yeah.
plan for everything. Because if I ended up being a single parent,
Right. And
yeah,
so, and did they witness his drinking, his bad behavior? Okay.
yes,
Um,
unfortunately, I couldn't hide this one from the family. It's
mhm.
kind of hard when you are cohabitating in a
Yeah.
family. Yeah, yeah.
And I'm so sorry that this happened to you. Was he, when your son was born, was he still in the picture?
Yes, I tried for my son. I think that most people do that. You know, we were married. We weren't cohabitating. We were married, and so I wanted to try to make it work. I tried to, but his battle was bigger than me, and no matter how much I supported him and tried to show him that I was his ally, he saw me as an adversary.
Mm.
And so it, one incident was enough. There were multiple incidents, but there was one in particular in front of my son that I was like, I don't want my son to see this.
Mm.
I don't want nobody. And my mom had to break down the door, and I slept in the room with her with the door locked. No one should live like that. So it was time he had to go.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I don't care where you go, but you got to go from here.
Mm-hmm.
And so he left, and then it was me and my kids and my mom. And my dad.
Wow. And did he leave like he left?
Oh, he
That's
did.
it? Is he still in your son's life, if you don't mind me asking?
No. Yeah, I'm gonna say yes and no. So he wasn't the best. He wasn't the most present father. My son and him's relationship was not great. I will share this with anyone that is in that situation. I had a lot of close male friends. I've always been really close with men, platonic, but they were very. I always wanted to make sure that my son had positive men around him, so he played sports. I made sure of that. I made sure that any man that engaged with me, platonic, anything, was a good man to have around my son because his father wasn't present.
Yeah.
So he could not stand the not us being a family. So my son suffered because of that.
Right.
But what I will tell any woman is that, or any man, if that child is sitting at the door crying, unfortunately, as much as it hurt my heart, I had to let it happen because lying to my son wasn't an option. Trying to make, because it just left the wound open so much longer that my son, if he's still waiting at the door, waiting for his dad to come and he never comes, it's painful to watch, but it's even more painful for that child to experience. And then the more you go, oh, he's going to be here, maybe, and you make excuses, it gives that child more hope and it keeps them hoping. Now, I am a big person about hope, but I just did not say anything. I let my son decide. If he wanted to wait for his dad, it was up to him. If he wanted to go and do something else, it was up to him. But I never made an excuse why his dad didn't come. I just would say, you want to wait a little longer? He'd be like, okay, yeah, Ma. And I'd be like, okay. And then I just ask him, you want to go and do something else? Maybe he'll come later. And he'd be like, yeah. And then eventually I didn't even have to say anything. So, and that advice came from a really good friend of mine that was like, look, I know you don't want to have this happen, but your son has to see it, because if you keep him hoping, it's just going to make him get hurt even more. And I didn't do that. So, yeah. So,
Yeah. Good advice from your friend.
he was. And like I said, keeping good men around my son still was able to see what a great man looks like. Like I had
Yeah.
some really dope men. My dad, I had some dope friends that were around. And then he had the most awesome older sister.
Clearly.
I raised my daughter, right? So she was with me 24/7, especially when if I wasn't in school, I was with my daughter. Um, and so because of that, I was like, I don't want her to raise my son. Like that's not her child, that's her brother. But she would always be like, "Ma, can I take Khalil with me?" And I'd be like, "Girl, really?" She'd be like, "Yeah." They be
Aw.
having. She done had him doing videos, and they did little dance things, and she played sports with him. Yeah, she was
Yeah,
a
that's
dope.
beautiful.
She was a dope big sister.
Well, it
And now
trickles down.
now he calls her big bro. That's a big bro.
Trickles down from the top, Tiffany. You
Oh,
know, I just wanted to, before we continue, it's interesting to me because you had mentioned this when you were talking about your first husband, that, and you had said, don't let people tell you that didn't you see the signs because the signs aren't always there. And you made a point of saying that.
right.
And it's interesting to hear you say that this is basically another time where you were like, where'd this come from? And, what do you think that is? Because now I know this is your specialty is, working with relationships. And what is that where you were not aware that this was, not an inevitability, because I don't know about if that, I'm not,
Right.
I don't know that, but that this was a possibility.
So this is gonna sound pretty dang cold, and so we're gonna get into how I've
Yeah.
learned a little bit more about me. I'm an introvert, so being alone never bothered me. Even as a kid, I was always good with being alone. Um, But I recently found out, I went to therapy a few years ago, that I never saw relationships as permanent. So anything seemed very temporary. So whether a person was there or not didn't bother me. So I never really leaned into a relationship like, oh, I need a man or I want a man around. Now, mind you, he was my husband, but emotionally, I probably wasn't the most available person when it came to emotion.
Interesting.
Not giving anyone any passes for any bad behavior, but it was that I always saw the best in any
Right.
individual. I never looked for bad. So I don't want anybody to say, oh, you never, it's because I wasn't looking for bad signs, right? Doesn't mean, now my first husband, yes, because he was, he had a diagnosed personality disorder, which they called military stress, that he literally snapped. So no, there were no warning signs for him or I. And I do believe, like, for his family to call me and apologize, I think it was deeply rooted, and I think that they all were remorseful, right?
Right.
But with him, his was alcohol induced. He wasn't a bad dude as long as he wasn't drinking. And we weren't drinking people. Like, we did not drink a lot. Like, that was just not something that we did. So it wasn't like, but he had a friend come back from overseas, and he stayed with us for a while, and the bad behavior started then.
Yeah.
I never, and I still have a relationship with this person, and he's like my son's uncle. So I have a really close relationship with him. I don't blame him for anything because we're adults. He made the choice. He chose, to have those bad behaviors. And so I will say that I don't want anyone to think that because you didn't see a warning sign that somehow you're to blame. You're not. Because these things can happen and transpire. And if you're a loving individual, which most of us are, you're not going to be looking for the bad in a person. You don't want to, because you want to love this person.
Yeah.
And so I will never tell anyone, oh, you missed the sign and you were to blame and you didn't see it. I'm like, no, because I know for a fact that man didn't show none of it. I mean, even his captain was like, this isn't the same dude. Carol and Jad was really who he was. And it just was that thing. my son's father, just alcohol was that thing that didn't allow him to rationally regulate his emotion.
Right.
And
Right.
so he became violent. And that's just what it is. And so I had enough protector in me that I was like, you know what? This isn't for my kids to see.
Yeah.
Oh, my family, and I don't want to do this. I don't deserve it. I knew I didn't deserve it. And no, I didn't think I can love him out of it. I thought that if as long as we could figure out how to keep him from drinking, it would have been probably a different ending. But
Right.
again, as an adult, I can't tell him when he's had enough. He's got to do that for himself. And so you lose your family behind bad behaviors that you are choosing not to fix.
Right.
So
Right.
you love yourself enough to know that you can't outlove a person. They have to be willing to do that for themselves. And so I can knock the ball out of his hand, really. So it wasn't like he would come home drunk. He would go to work, and Fridays he'd go drinking and come home. So it wasn't an everyday thing. It was a when he was. And so it just got to the point where his demons got bigger than our marriage.
Yeah. Wow. And you were able to protect again. Once again, you're able to protect. Whew. So, all right. So now you are home. You're safe. Your mom is there helping, and you're in school. Are you taking classes at this point?
So it's funny because just a little bit more of that story. I had started school, so that's another thing that made him even more angry. He thought I was going to get smart, find another man, and leave. Don't know where that came from, because I've never cheated on anybody in my entire life. It was just that I'm just not built like that. That's not even, and I never gave him any. I never felt like have people feel jealous, and no, I never played those games. That just wasn't me. So I'm not quite sure where it came from. I know where it came from. His stepfather wasn't the most loving towards him, so he would say things like, "Oh, she's more of a man than you are." I mean, when you're dealing with things like that, and that's why I said I tried to convince him that I was his ally and not his adversary.
Right.
But when you have counterintuitive things being told to you, it could resonate a little bit differently, right? And so now you're talking about insecurities within him. And so anytime I went to school, it became a thing, to the point where I had a teacher, a professor, write me a note, because he would be very abrupt. And so, not the teacher, but my son's father. So I was leaving from school one day, and the professor and I just so happened to be walking out the gate at the same time. Now, mind you, he's an older white man.
Okay.
If I can just put it out there, he's an older white man. And so we're leaving out the door, and he runs out the car and starts yelling and cussing and telling him, get away from his effing wife and all the things, and just kind of grabs me up. So the next class, I have to take a test, and so he slips me a pamphlet for domestic abuse. And I just start crying. He's like, "You can finish your test another time. I understand." He's like, "But, I use it if you need it."
Wow.
And that's when I think I really started to realize that I wasn't hiding it as well as I thought I was.
Right.
And it wasn't so much as me trying to hide anything. I just tried to not leave the building with another man. Like, he came and did that at my job. It was bad. And so,
I mean, you had mentioned your mom had to break down a door.
Yeah, my mom had to break into our bedroom door, because she heard the ruckus, and she wasn't trying to have it. And so,
and this is when you have an infant at home as well.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, your daughter, but you also have an infant, a newborn.
Yeah. My son was two when I put him out. So I think that behind his demons, and so when I put him out, I was already going to school, but when I put him out, I was able to focus and get more clarity on I need to do this, because I was doing it to help take care of the family. he had did everything he could to try to get into the military. I tried to go into the military, but because I had cancer, they wouldn't let me in the military unless I had a hysterectomy. And I was like, yeah, that ain't an option. And so, which is the funniest thing because I ended up having one like a year later.
Oh.
And so at 28 years old, I had a hysterectomy because of all the problems.
Mm.
And so now I am a newly separated woman with 2 kids, and I'm going to school, and I'm like, you know what? I got to make this happen. I got to make this work. So I find a co-op with the Department of Defense, and I go to work for them through a co-op program. And so now I'm working full time. I'm going to school full time, and I'm taking care of my 2 kids.
What are you doing for the Department of Defense?
So I worked for DFAS, and DFAS is the payroll branch for the Department of Defense. So I was working there as a GS3 disbursement clerk when I first got there. And I will retire at the end of this year with almost over 28 years of service. Getting to the highest level you can get in the federal service, a very decorated career, receiving the second highest honor, Superior Civilian Award. Had a flag flown in my honor on the USS Constitution.
Stop it.
No, when I say it was dope. So I worked for the command that took care of the Constitution, and we weren't having enough money to get her. So I made a working group, and they call me the woman that saved the USS Constitution, which it was a lot of us on there. Yes, it was me making sure we had to go to Congress and get some more money, but it was amazing to work with such amazing people that we all had the same goal. And so when we went to put her in dry dock, we did one last turnaround. So they had invited me. I was on there with the mayor and the vice president of the United States. It was fun. It was really fun. And they treated me like royalty, and they allowed my mom to come. So they treated us like VIPs. So we did it. And then
when was this? Sorry to interrupt.
Was in 2000, and girl, now you want me to remember stuff. Okay. Because I left in 17. So I want to say this was 15. I want to say 2015. And so we took her and put her in dry dock. And I loved every minute. It was an amazing thing to have happen. But in 2017, when I shifted and went to the National Zoo to become their finance director, and then ended up being their CFO, when I was leaving, they presented me with a flag with a certificate saying that it had been flown. It was the first flag flown when they took her out of dry dock.
Wow.
And it was her first back to sea. They brought her back and they gave me the flag, and I cried.
What an honor. How beautiful.
Yes.
Ooh,
Such an honor.
Did you expect your career to go this far when you first? Yeah.
Oh no! I prayed to God. So I graduate from TCC Community College and transfer right over because they had the program. You go to a 4-year college and you don't have to start. You can go in automatically as a junior. So now I'm still not making any GS3s. Don't make very much money. So I'm still on GS3 pay. So I go to Old Dominion University on Pell and scholarships because of my grades. And so it was challenging, but I had a great time at Old Dominion. Learned a lot about myself at Old Dominion, but also had a great time. Did a lot of activities but I was able to, my daughter did like our fashion shows and stuff, and I was like the radio DJ for a while. It was fun. I had a good time. I made the best of it. But the support that I received there too. I went to school during the day because I didn't want to be home at night. So because of the co-op, they allowed me to do that. So I took classes, strategically took my classes on certain days and then worked extra hours on certain days. And so they allowed me to do all of that. And I still was home to take care of my kids. Both my kids played sports. My daughter was a cheerleader. Not my favorite, but glad she did it. And my son was like, he played football and basketball. So I was able to keep them in sports and things like that. So I had a busy life for a few years.
Yeah.
And so I think that graduating, I told that, so I was every step of my way. When I got my bachelor's degree, I got two of them. I got one in accounting, and then I turned around and got one in finance. And so after that, the DFAS was very supportive of education. So they they did tuition assistance. So I went and got my MBA. And so they were very supportive. Like it just was their thing. They were big on education. And so I was very blessed to be at DFAS and have so much support from the people that actually work there, from the leadership down to just coworkers and peers. I had Miss Marilyn. I did have some hiccups because people weren't, I couldn't afford to dress a certain way. And so Miss Marilyn came and she brought me a bag of suits and asked me if it offended me. And I said, no, ma'am. And so I wore those suits every day. And every day I would go to work. My whole career, everybody was like, you always wearing suits. I said, you have no idea why. And so I would tell them the story of Miss Marilyn and giving me that bag of suits. And I just wanted to make her proud. And so anytime someone would believe in me, I just did whatever I needed to do to make them proud. That was like my mantra, was always making them proud. And so I after that, when I graduated, I prayed. I said, God, I just want to be a GS-13, make $85,000 so I could take care of my kids. Man, I surpassed that before I was 35. and yeah, so I almost tripled the pay. So I think God did. He said, you put in the work, I'm gonna meet you where you're at, and I'm gonna multiply it. And so when you sow that seed and you put that prayer out there and you be diligent, let God do the rest, it works out.
As long as you're fulfilling your half of the deal.
Yeah, you plant that mustard seed, and then you walk by faith and you do your work. So I actually have 3 P's. If I can share them, it's called God's Pause, and it's 3 P's. It's prayer, preparation, and patience. Prayer, you pray, let God know what you want, what you desire, and what you need, and then you prepare. That means you gotta stay ready, so you ain't gotta get ready. And then you're patient because God is working it out. And I'm telling you, those things, those 3 P's, God's pause, just let it happen.
The 3 P's, absolutely. Wow, yeah. I mean, and, okay, so wait a second. I need to rewind just for a moment. Because I know so much of your work has to do, currently, to do with helping people sort of deal with emotional regulation around, some people have issues from past trauma. You've clearly been through quite a bit of trauma at a young age. And I'm wondering how were you able to suppress it, as you said earlier, sort of like put that on pause and continue on, raise your kids, get this career, triple your goals by the age of 35. Were you aware that you were pushing stuff aside, or were you just on autopilot?
I was on autopilot. So we'll go ahead and skip probably about a decade, because life just at that time was just on cruise control.
Right. Exactly. You just kept going. Yeah.
So I had mentioned a little bit earlier that I started therapy a couple years ago, and in our, I want to say, second session, I was told that because I couldn't quite put my finger on why I was not successful at relationships. And then so we talked about how I grew up and things like that. I have no problems with how I grew up. I don't blame my parents for anything. I just don't feel the need to resent anyone or anything or any experience I've had in my life. And so that kind of like intrigued her as how I compartmentalize all of the things. I didn't even share a lot of the details that I've shared with you with her. She just knows that I've been through some traumatic abuse relationships. And so she came to the conclusion that I was so used to my relationships, any of them, friendships, situationships, anything, as temporary, because I was dating military guys, one, and he left abruptly.
Right.
My ex-husband, what we went through. So she was like, and I really didn't want to get married. And so she was like, you're just used to not seeing any relationship as permanent, like none. I didn't grow up around any of my family.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have that gauge of something that is rooted in something concrete that will stay around
Right.
forever. Never had it. And so because you can't miss something you never had.
Yeah.
And so I had to view, and at this time I'm dating someone and I wanted that relationship to be permanent. And so I wanted to do the work to make it permanent. But I learned in sitting with emotion that you suppressed for all these years, you need tools to do that, because I became extremely aggressive, more so than I had been in the past. And so, I never put my hands on anyone. That's not who I am. But I like to call it volatile. I could be triggered by anything. Like a simple argument became like, I don't gotta do this, you can go ahead. So it doesn't look very high, but it looks very abandonment-ish. It looks very
Right.
avoided-ish.
Right.
It's the I don't want to deal with emotion, so you figure that out, whatever that looks
Mm-hmm.
like. Or then it became to the point where now I'm aggressively arguing and we're going back and forth. And so that, because those things are happening, I don't want to be that way. I didn't
Right.
feel like I was able to be cognizant of how I'm responding or how I'm acting in moments. I felt like I was blacking out, and I was like, I'm not fighting. I'm like literally not this. I'm used to this, but this is not what this is. And this man is beautiful.
Right.
I don't want to be that way. And so I'm going, all right, I'm feeling like I'm broken. I'm feeling like sitting in these emotions are causing me to be in duress. And it's like, now that I'm in duress, how do I get out of that? How do I? And so I started seeking tools. And so I feel that while I can be loving and I can be there for others and show up for others, I wasn't showing up. I was realizing I wasn't showing up. Being emotionally detached is not showing up. Just because you're there, you're holding space for people, doesn't mean you're showing up. And so I challenged myself to go on this journey of, okay, we're going to fully learn how to be present. So he actually gave me a book to read called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
Yes.
And so I'm reading this book like, oh, that's what it means to be fully present. So now I'm starting to question myself and starting to have real conversations with myself about emotional regulation. And so I'm going, okay, it's nice that we have awareness now, but where are the tools? What do we do? How do we fix that? And so when you're a person like me that is able to navigate so well, people tend to go, oh, you got it. You girl, you gonna be fine. And I'm going, wait, but I'm not. And if I know I need the tools and y'all telling me I'm fine, I went to God and was like, God, am I that broken? I said, am I not fixable? And I was like, I can't be this broken. How? And so those were some dark days. And I had to dig deep to figure out why am I so broken, God? Why did you make me like this? How come I can do for everyone else, but I can't do for myself? And so he literally started sending angels like you, self-preservation, my children, my love, to give me the strength that I didn't have when I needed to have it. And so people started showing up for me. And so I started to go, all right, if they see this in me, it's there. I'm not broken. God, you don't make any mistakes. So let me get up off this floor. Let me dry these tears up and clean up the snot. And we're gonna put our big girl panties on and get it going. We're gonna go and find some tools. So I started searching out tools. I started learning about DTS, distress tolerance skills. That was the thing that really was a shift in what I am now. Like I even noticed the softness in myself now. And so because it wasn't that I needed those soft tools. Meditating, cute, nice. Tapping, okay. But I needed something. I needed something as volatile as my emotions. And
Right.
so because they were so aggressive, I dance. I love to dance. Music is
Mm.
something that soothes me. And so I learned that in moments of duress, I'm not talking about somebody that cut me off. I'm not talking about, you know, those conversations you have at coworkers and you just mad with no, these are in moments of all the abuse trauma. These things are in our body. They're in our they're passed down to us. And your body, I'm reading a book called The Body Keeps Score.
Mm-hmm.
I have to take his course because I love him. But he says that all trauma resonates in your body. And you can't unteach it. It's there, it's rooted, and it's going to bubble up anytime it's triggered, every time it's touched. So that you have to learn how to navigate these worlds. So when you have someone that has been diagnosed with schizophrenia and bipolar, they have probably had some type of traumatic experience in their life that they've suppressed. Now it might not be visible, but it's there. And because their mind can't rationalize its way out of it, it goes into another world to soothe it. And
Mm.
when you get to that extreme, you have to medicate for your body to even regulate, to be capable of living.
That's pretty deep what you're saying there. That's
Right,
deep. Yeah.
right. And so
Yeah.
as I've learned that, I said, I am not the only one experiencing this.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
so I wanted to learn all the tools and make my toolbox so big that
Mm-hmm.
anyone can come and go, well, that didn't work. So tapping may work for them.
Right.
Meditation and mindfulness may work for them. Acceptance and commitment, which is another technique, may work for them. Mindfulness may work, but we just change their perception of things may work.
Mm-hmm.
But ETS speaks to the volatility of those things when your amygdala hijacks the rest of your body, and now you don't know the difference between a perceived threat and a real threat,
Right.
and you're responding as such. A lot of times that's not conscious, that's subconscious, because
Mm-hmm.
I knew that and scanning for safety is real. I know that my love, yeah, I'm safe. But because my body was so used to being default of survival,
Right.
it felt weird to be with him. I got the signals mixed up. I got them backwards
Right.
because my body was like, something ain't right over here. Like this is, it feels weird. I don't,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm thinking, oh no, I don't need to be over here because my body is telling me this ain't it. I'm getting, can't sleep, can't. But my nervous system was like, man, look, this is what we really want. We want to be over here. But we
Yeah.
used to being over here, so it don't feel right. So we're kind of fighting it because it's unnatural over here.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, now that I've known and I started building the tools and I stopped and started doing more body scanning when I'm around him versus when I'm not,
Mm.
and thinking of moments of feeling seen, heard, safe, not running, and being accepted as who you are, even when you're not loving. Yeah, yeah, that's the default.
Yeah. Yeah. It's thank you for that. That's, and it's so much more to ask you about the
Yeah,
tools and the work that you're doing. But before, I just had a thought while you were speaking about how, it's interesting to think how your kids are so important to you, and you've clearly been such an impactful mother, and you've made big girl decisions along the way to make sure that you were in your kids' life in the way that you wanted to be. And hearing you talk about this, how you are guarded in relationships, it's interesting how, it just makes me think about how there was a closeness that you, I'm sure, have with your children that you probably, I'm sure you still do, of
yeah,
course, but that probably allowed you to not even seek other relationships for some
right,
time because, right, you had a
right.
safety with your kids. And
Yeah,
obviously you're a grown woman, so there's, at some point you're like, I think I want a different type of relationship here.
yeah,
So is that kind of the trajectory? Am I picking up on that right? That when you were on autopilot, you were getting what you needed from your kids and your life and
Yeah,
work, and then suddenly,
I dated here and there, but I
right?
definitely kept them away from my kids,
Yeah,
because I didn't want a man that wasn't going to be permanently there,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And I never go into relationships thinking, okay, this isn't going to go anywhere. But I was very quick because when I was going to school full time, I just didn't have time.
right.
I'm very cognizant of who I am. And so I know to be in a relationship, you have to be able to be there and have, it's not fair to be like, I want to be in a relationship and then you don't have the time and you can't pay them. My focus was on my kids, my
Yeah,
career, and my education. And I actually did start dating someone that he was like, look, I'll do whatever I need to do to make your life easier. He would pick the kids up and take them to their sports and things like that. So there were people that were willing to do that. I just didn't have the capacity to let my emotions
yeah.
pay attention to any of that.
You
So
were protecting yourself, quite
yeah,
honestly. I mean,
I
yeah.
don't know if I was protecting myself. I think that I just
Okay.
didn't focus on that. Like I really tried to go back and ask myself, like, but I really just didn't care whether they were there or not because I was
Right.
focused on me doing what I need to do. I think I was a little overly responsible, definitely not emotionally available. So because my emotions was secondary to me taking care of my kids. So
Yeah.
what I
Right.
needed was secondary to them to getting what they needed. And so
Right.
that was my whole focus was to make sure that but all these years later though, me and my daughter had like we've had some really, my daughter now is 39. Oh, sorry, she's 38. She's gonna shoot me. She's 38, and so we've had some conversations over the years because being raised by a teen mom that's not the most emotionally available person at all, it takes its toll on her. So we've had
Mm-hmm.
some good conversations where my daughter has really been very frank with me, and I love that. I love that relationship I have with my kids because they can tell me stuff that might hurt my feelings, but I know it's from a need that they did not get met. And
Yeah.
so I'm woman enough to say, I messed up. And I've gone to
Mm.
them and apologized for numerous things. Every time I learn something new, I'm like, oh wow, how did this make you feel? So I'm accepting of the flaws that I had in raising them. Like I tell them all the time, y'all are dope despite of, you know. And
Yeah.
I do love that people, see my kids and they think that I'm an amazing mom. But I will let you know that them two, they definitely are the reason why I'm as dope as I am because I got dope kids. And
Aw.
so they have taught me through the years. I talk to them like I want to know how they were affected because I don't want them that way. My
Mm.
kids are so loving. They are so loving. I tell them all the time, I'm so
Great.
glad that y'all are that way because I get loved upon when I don't feel so loving. And
Mm.
so, and they're from adult kids. So we not having little kid conversations. We're having adult
Yeah.
conversations. And I love that. And
Yeah. That's
so I'm
great.
able to receive what they're saying though. I don't get my feelings may get hurt, but I refuse to allow that to be a trigger for me to somehow blame them for their feelings or their emotions or what
Right.
they believe. And the older they get, the more that we have these conversations. So they're open to hearing now what I did and why I did it. I didn't, when they're coming to me, that's not the time to tell them, oh, well, because of this, I did that. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. Sorry that was your experience. And what can I do to make
Right.
things better? Knowing that I have to wait until they're open to hearing. My
Mm-hmm.
daughter and my son were raised way different. Like my daughter was the only child until she was 9, and then when she
Yeah.
became 18, she stayed. We left. So my son was the only child from 9 to 18.
Yeah. Very different.
Very different upbringings, very different relationships with me
Yeah.
and where I was in life, and so I will never minimalize either one. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
and so I love that I have that relationship with them where they help me grow and make sure that I'm whole. And
Mm.
so I've always been able to lean on that. Now, was that somehow a crutch for a man coming in my life? Yes. Because I was getting the things that I needed
Right.
without, because we all know you can get sex wherever
Right. Yeah.
that's
Of
just something
course.
that if you're missing that, you can go get that. And so that doesn't have to come with intimacy.
No.
It doesn't. And so because I knew that, I didn't
Yeah.
seek it. I sought, cardinal need here and there, and I kept it pushing. Now, mind you, I wasn't a loosey goosey. I had friends with benefits. They were in my life for years. And so, but I just never had that dynamic of this is going to be my relationship. I'm going forward. And then
Right.
I did. And
And that
so,
changed.
yeah, and so then, but then I realized I'm not in love with this person, and I felt horrible because I had to let him go because he deserved to be loved. He was an awesome dude, and I just wasn't
Mm,
in love with him, and I think he deserved that. I think anybody deserves a person that truly loves him from a pure place. I didn't have any agenda, but I knew I wasn't in love with him, and I knew that that would make him happy because he wanted
right.
something from me that I couldn't give him, and that was to be in love with him. And so as we get older and we get more self-aware, we should be very diligent in the relationships we have with people because you can hurt them. And
Well, and sorry, go ahead.
no, go
Sorry.
ahead.
No, no, please keep.
Oh no. I literally I was finalizing that,
Yes.
we need to be more responsible with people's heart.
And that's what, and I'm sorry for interrupting because I just was jumping on that because that brings me to thinking about you and what you're doing and how your work now. So,
Right.
like, yeah, please talk a little bit about what you are now doing. You are speaking and sharing the tools, and I know this was one of two books.
Yes.
How do you work with people?
Mhm.
Yeah, talk about it.
So since 2017, since I had a full-time job, I would just do it on the side, but I would do one-on-ones. And so earlier in the year, I got certified to be a relationship coach, because I wanted to do couples because I really felt like there is this theme of the world today where relationships they're just falling apart, and it's, like I said, being more responsible with the person's heart, getting to know them, and understand them. And so I ended up having this passion for trying to being called the love phenom to help people really find love and love from a genuine pure place.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I was learning about me and the things that was keeping me from being unlovable in moments of where we could get closeness and get that intimacy, I was pushing instead of pulling.
Mm.
And so I started, when I started learning the tools, I started interweaving everything. And so as I still do couples and individuals, I started feeling like while they're definitely beneficial and I will continue to do them, I feel like I need to be on a bigger, broader type of mission of trying to give any and everybody these tools to help them emotionally regulate so that they are showing up fully present and rooted in love. Hence the name of the book. Love Foundation is the art of staying in a loving place. So as the book was being finalized and I was picking it back up after years of putting this book together and started reading and understanding that my journey looks interesting, and that me where I am now is different than where I was when I started the book. So the journey of the book, while it's in three parts: love thyself, because you gotta know who you are. You gotta accept who you are, good, bad, and indifferent. That's gonna open you up to loving yourself. So the second part is love thyself. And when you learn to love yourself, every piece of you, the good, the bad, the ugly, and I will tell you, some of mine was ugly. I just love myself from a pure place, and it helps me to remind myself, how am I showing up for others, and how in moments of duress or moments of uncomfortability, moments of difficult challenging conversations, all of those things, how am I showing up to hold that person so that we can have a dialogue. And then it's love thy neighbor. So if I know who I am and I'm loving who I am, then I know what it takes for me to show up loving in a moment. And that's what I'm responsible for. God put me as responsible for my emotions, how I show up. And if we are showing up in those manners, people are going to mirror that. Yes, they're going to be cantankerous at times. Yes, they're going to be, because if you're just now getting to this journey, that person is already rooted in the old version of you. So it is consistency, it is openness, it is willingness, it is definitely continuing to practice being rooted in love and not just saying it but showing up that way. And the more tools you have, because there's different signals, right? So some of them
Right.
are going to be a little bit harder. Like you might got to go tell somebody you pregnant.
depending on that relationship, that conversation could be really joyous, or it could be anxious because you're not quite sure how the person is going to take it, or you already know that that person doesn't want kids, and so now you're dreading it because you don't want to make the decision by yourself, but you don't know how this conversation is going to go. So your body is already having emotions about this, like I said, good, middle, or bad. And so if you're rooted in love and you know the tool you need to tap into, you're going to show up fully present to engage in that conversation, and you're going to be able to hold that person, because that person is going to have another emotion on the opposite side of that conversation. And so a lot of times people think that, oh, well, they're responsible for my, no, you're responsible for your emotions and how you show up. They are responsible for how they affect you. So the work is on both sides, but you can't worry about the other side if you're not showing up fully present.
That's
and
the key.
So it really is the more tools you have in your toolbox, the more you're able to, one, discern, is this a real threat versus a perceived threat? Because if it's a perceived threat, then we can really engage and stay engaged. But what level of that tool do I need? If it's a quick prayer, God, you know this about to go left, but I know you got me. Okay, you can show up. Or if it's you know what, I'm anxious. This is making me anxious. And now I'm tapping because I got to bring awareness back into my body because my mind is already hijacked.
Yeah.
Or it's, okay, I know that this is gonna be a thing. Let me dance this energy out. I'm telling you, I will tell you, I just did another podcast interview, and we were talking about something from my mother's past, and I got sensitized. I started rocking, and I had to do this because I had to get the energy out. And I was on a couch. I couldn't jump up and run around. So I had to move. I had to exert. I had to make my fingers do this just so I can get back to here.
Right.
I can continue on. But it comes with really understanding who I am and being able to face who I am. And then loving that part of me that's feeling very unlovable in that moment. And when I'm saying being loving, I'm not talking about just for the other person, but for yourself as well.
Yeah. So are you looking now, you're making this transition from working with people privately and working in groups, and do you have any plans in the next couple of months? Is there like anything up and coming?
Yes. So I actually am I am finalizing everything because I'm trying to hit the 2026 with the bang. So I am actually working on 2 projects. So I will be going what we call business to business. But in doing the business to business, I do want to do seminars and workshops for individuals. I think that work is so imperative, and I don't want to lose that. I just know that, doing the one-on-one work, while I love being able to walk people through life's changes, I feel like these tools are so needed in the world right now that I need to get this out. But I don't want to leave anyone behind. So yes, I will still be offering seminars and workshops. I am creating my website as we speak. I am getting ready to put up my community called the Lovables off of the Incredible. So you will definitely, because love is a superpower. And so you will actually be able to take a quiz to see what lovable you are. And they got cute little names. So yes, Mr. Invincible, you got Elastic Girl, you have the Flames, which are after Edna Mode.
So good. So good.
So cute. And I'm so excited about that. So that's going to be first, putting up the community.
Great.
And so it'll be a Facebook community so people can come in and start to socialize with each other. And we're going to build a community to help heal as many people as we possibly can. So I'll be giving tips and tools in that. I also am working on more podcasts to try to give more energy out and get the tools out that way. So freebies are all over the place. Of course, I'll be giving them out on my Instagram. I'm not the most sociable person when it comes to social media, guys. So just be patient. It's coming though, because
it's coming.
I'm heavily pushing for it.
It's coming.
But I am working on a men's event because men's mental health is this thing that is on my heart. It's been on my heart for years. I'm raising a son So I am definitely incorporating. So I have a meeting for that later this week. So I have a
Great.
lot of things in the hopper. I definitely will keep you abreast of everything that's going on, but they can definitely log into my socials and it will be all there. But the biggest thing is the book. The book
Yes.
is, it is that thing that has been the labor of love. It is definitely a journey with me through my life and my experiences, but it definitely talks about being able to stay rooted in love and the fundamental building blocks that it takes to do that. And there are 5 of them.
Yeah.
So while the book is in 3 parts, there are 5 fundamental building blocks that we can all build and work on and build our toolbox. And this is not just about moments of the rest. This is just for life, just
Yeah.
maneuvering life, growing. It is a lifelong thing. So it's not like this book is going to heal you in a day. I wish, oh, if it does, please let me know, because it's taken me quite a while to get here. But I hope it is that catalyst that helps people to start to have those conversations with themselves.
Yeah, and I can't wait for the book, and obviously we'll, be getting it out there. And I just have to ask you something, Tiffany, because after hearing all of this and hearing your journey and how, I mean, quite honestly, you have had so many, I'm going to say it, what we would call like successes along the way, and you've been such, nothing's ever stopped you. You've just kept going and you've kept pushing. And you've also done that, though, in such an eloquent way, always acknowledging the support that you've had and knowing the importance of that support. So my question to you, Tiffany, is how do you define success?
Oh, wow. Beautiful question. How do I define success? So for me, success is knowing that I've helped someone. And I've been so blessed to have so many people in my life that remind me how dope I am. So that is success to me, is when someone comes back and tells me that my story or just being around me, knowing me has made their life just a little bit better. That's success. It'll never come with a price tag, because that's priceless, man. When I tell you, when I did that community drill team back in my mid-20s, and the girls to this day come back and they tell me how much I changed their life. I get no greater feeling. Both my children being entrepreneurs, having their own businesses, I get to brag different. That's success to me.
Yeah.
But the thing that will probably be the most successful is that just this book, being able to spark conversations, help people to learn to love every inch of themselves. That's what success looks like for me. I hate that it's a frou-frou answer, but it really is the thing that I measure my life against, because my prayer has always been, God, let me be a benefit to anyone that has come across my path, that I am a blessing and not a burden. So as long as I'm living what God said, that's success.
Well, get ready for lots of successes, bless you, because when we drop this episode, bless you, it's going to touch a lot of people, and we'll be hearing about how your story has touched people's lives. And thank you so much for sharing all of this. Thank you to you for being so open and honest and just real. And thank you to your beautiful children for being obviously such awesome adult kids.
Yes.
And I hope to be able to, follow their journeys in the world as entrepreneurs as well. And just thank you, Tiffany, for being you. And I'm just so happy to be here in this space with you and to watch you continue to share your tools and to help people really see the secret of it all is love, the foundation.
Yeah. And just a shout out to yourself, because yes, people, it was her that was on my line. She would text me early in the morning, where we at with the book. And so you have to have the accountability partner, because and find you a Marion. He's dope.
Well, back at you, because you were like, I wrote a book. I was like, I gotta get this podcast going.
See, so you never know how someone will affect you, and so being open to that. And so the second book is going to be called The Love That I Have to Give, and it's going to teach the tools. So it'll be more about the tools, and so that book will be a little bit more about the science behind body chemistry and emotional regulation, but it still comes from meeting great people in my life like you, Marion, like being able to recognize the things in me that other people see. So, girl, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I can't wait to do that episode for that second book. Let's go. Thanks, Tiffany. You're the best. Have a great rest of the week and all the good stuff.
Thank you. You as well.
Bye.